The NHS is in a monumental mess. So the other day, I told the story about Ava Stanley, who was forced to dial 999 while she was actually in hospital because the staff were busy elsewhere or it was simply understaffed. And again, it was a demonstration of bureaucratic failure and a response from the CEO of the hospital simply said, "I'm sorry that we haven't come up to the high expectations that we would normally deliver." That sort of rubbish, which isn't an apology. "I'm sorry you feel this way." It isn't an apology. And that language should be erased from our popular vocabulary. But today there's a story, actually it came out yesterday, there's a story about Joyce Wright, 83-year-old who went in for a hip replacement in the Pilgrim Hospital in Lincolnshire, a place near Boston, which I know well. My mother died there. And she was discharged not to her home in Sleaford, but to somebody else's home in Skegness, where she woke up the following day and was greeted by somebody who thought they were seeing their own relative, and her own son Andy didn't even know she'd been discharged. This is utter madness. And when we have the additional problem of do you know or do you not know whether or not a do not resuscitate order has been made on your behalf for you? So if you go into cardiac arrest, do you know or do you not know whether or not you will in fact recover? Or are you just being left to die in this miserable excuse for a health service? And it's not about my complaint, and it is a complaint, is not about the quality of nursing and the quality of doctors and consultants. It's about the failure of bureaucracy. It's about the paperwork that simply isn't being done and the sheer numbers of people who are employed in the NHS simply to do that paperwork that is failing and failing and failing. The computer systems that are making people very rich in the Conservative Party donors who are in charge of producing computer equipment that isn't universal throughout the system. And Matt Hancock's friends and so on. This is all about making individuals rich, and it's not about making the system itself rich and effective. It's about a system that is barely functioning, and about doctors and nurses who are suffering appallingly simply to keep going. And we need a significantly better way of handling this issue. And if somebody is going in for an angiogram and they have this anxiety, what if a DNR has been recorded on my paperwork, or what if my paperwork is mixed up with somebody else's paperwork that does have a DNR? How do I know I'm safe? How do I know I'm safe? And in the end, with an incompetent bureaucracy, we can't know we're safe. We are placing ourselves in the hands of an organisation that at the moment is chaotic, and it's going to take a lot more than just simply restoring quality. It's got to restore confidence, and that requires a lot more than somebody coming to the dispatch box in the House of Commons and banging on the dispatch box and talking about invader or whatever. It doesn't work. We've gone beyond the point where rhetoric will suffice. We need a demonstration of a sea change in habit, a sea change in quality. And that should be fairly easy to arrange because it's about bureaucracy. It's not about skills management. And so many of the bureaucrats in the NHS today are those people who sort of got left behind. I know a number of them. They were monumentally stupid when I knew them, and they haven't got any better since. Why are these people in charge of the NHS? Why are these people bringing the NHS to its knees and being paid so much for the privilege? We need to ask these simple questions. Why are these people not going on strike like the doctors and nurses? Why do these people get the parking places when the nurses don't? Why are these people sitting pretty when the rest of us are going into hospital and fearing for our life? There used to be an idea in the 19th century that if you went into hospital, that was really a disaster. Then we had an idea, through the middle of the last century, that if you went into hospital, you were going in there for help. And now suddenly we're back to the old idea that going into hospital is a very dangerous experience. It's not a place where you can be confident you are going to get the help you need, not because the doctors and nurses are not there, not because the doctors and nurses are not trained, not because the equipment is not excellent and cutting edge, but because your paperwork can get mixed up or can get misdirected, or indeed can be wrongly filled out. Your paperwork. And it all comes down to paperwork. And we should have a right to be resuscitated if we want to be. And we should have an option to rescind that right. We should have an option to opt out of that. I'm not sure whether that's the case. We should be able to trust that our health service will deliver what we expect. And I'm not sure we can. And the story of Ava Stanley ringing 999 because she was in hospital and because 4 times there was an emergency and 4 times she was ignored, and the case of Joyce Wright, only a few days later, reported only a few days later, being sent home to the wrong home. Not simply the wrong home, but in an entirely different town. This is madness. Utter madness.